Hey, hey. You look so wintry.
It's
Hey, hey.
it's fall here.
You look so wintry.
It's
Hey, hey.
it's fall here. Okay, I think I got rid of the double sound.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fall.
I'm going to blur my background too because it's boring. Actually, no, you know what? Oh, can't do that. Look at my face. Um, nope, can't do that. We'll just do none. Okay.
No, that doesn't work.
So while everybody's joining, I thought today would be a good time to start talking about pricing. Because that's such an important and sometimes complicated thing with luxury properties, normally because there's often few comps. Coming up with a price that sets the right expectations, achieves the objectives of your seller, and also doesn't lose you the listing because you know how that is. Sellers in any price point always want really crazy high prices, but in the absence of comps, they always think that their property is worth so much. And sometimes it's a balancing act between getting the listing and working with them to the point of actually getting to a closed sale and setting the expectation, but losing the listing because you told them a price they don't like, which might be the right price, but they don't like it. So does that sound like a good topic?
Yes, it does. And I also think when you're presenting that price, make sure that you put it in writing so that you can refer back to it when you have to adjust the price.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I've lost a decent amount of listings because somebody came in and gave them just an absolutely crazy high price. And I always track them, and I'm always amazed at how often, and certainly more than not, do they actually sell for the price I told them. Um, and the reason somebody might say, well, why don't you just tell them a crazy high price too? I'm at a point in my career that I don't want the massive stress and anxiety of a seller thinking they can get this when I know for a fact that this might be the price. And that could be in the higher price points, that can be several hundred to several $1,000,000 difference. And when a seller has their mindset on this and an agent takes that on, they really think that that's a possible number, and they start to really ride us as agents about what are you doing to market my property? Why are you bringing me? And if it's priced way too high, you won't even get showings. And I know, Catherine, you've had that too. So I'm at a point in my career, I don't want that added stress and anxiety of an unrealistic seller latched onto an unrealistic price. I have in the past, and I will from time to time, take a property that I think the price is not achievable, if and only if I've had the conversation with the seller where I let them know, hey, I'm not seeing that, but I'm always willing to try any price a seller wants to try, as long as we're in agreement and the understanding that you don't set the seller, Mr. And Mrs. You don't set the price, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and I don't set the price. The market sets the price. Our job together in partners in selling this property is to cast the widest net to the most targeted and qualified buyers, and the market will set the price. And by casting a large enough net through marketing and through great negotiation, will get you the highest price the market will bear. But that still doesn't mean that we are miraculous shamans that can create a price that just a buyer's not willing to pay. And if they're okay with that.
And one more thing is, especially with new construction, a builder or the client will say, this is going to have this kind of doors, this is going to have this, appliances and all of these other things. And then when you are getting ready to market, it has what you based your price on were all those fabulous things this home was going to have. and none of those things are there. So right before you put it on, just make sure that you're both on the same page, that this will be done, this will be done, because it's a very different price if you're going to be putting on high-end appliances. It's a small thing, but anyway, compared to
No, a high-end appliance is absolutely, but the other thing is that for new build construction or any house, if you're testing the boundaries of what the market will bear, the other conversation we have to have is if there are no comps to support the price you want, and even the price the buyer's willing to pay, if that is a financed buyer, they're not going to be able to buy it because they're either not going to be able to get a loan, or the difference between the appraised price and the contract price is going to be so great that they don't have the money to bring to the table to make up that difference. Or if it's way off, they might not want to bring it to the table. So the other conversation I have to have with sellers, and I just had it this weekend, was when they're wanting to try a really crazy price, say, I just want you to understand that we're limiting our buyer pool because we're basically eliminating the opportunity for a financed buyer, even a well-qualified financed buyer, which means we have to go focus only on cash buyers. And sometimes sellers haven't thought all those things through. They don't understand that they might be eliminating 50 to even 75% of the buyer pool if a loan can't be taken out. And if it's on a super high priced property, not everybody's running around with several hundred to several million to tens of millions of dollars in cash that they want to lock up in a property, because most people, even very, very wealthy people, don't always want to put all their cash in real estate because there's so many great investments right now. They want that money in the stocks, or if they're in crypto, or they have other business opportunities and things like that.
or CBD or
right, or NFTs, or all the things.
yeah.
I have a couple slides. We'll do a few and see how far we get.
And really quickly, Janie said something that is super important, and that was to cast the widest net. And you think, well, how am I going to cast the widest net? So there's many programs out there to let you know, but your MLS is probably your best friend. And just take a look in that price point. Let's say if it's a $2 million house, how many have sold within the last month or two? From 2 million, how many have sold at 3 million? And that, so maybe you need to be looking at that and presenting that to your seller to show, hey, if we price it at 2,995 instead of 3, we're going to have 20% more buyer pool. So these are all very important things to do your research. And if you ever have any questions on how to get that done, Janie and I are always here.
We are always here. Is my screen showing?
It is not. It was
Okay.
about to, but then it went away.
Yeah, something's going wonky. It says it's showing. You know what it is? Hold on. I had it in presentation mode, but I think I can't do that and share. So hold on one sec. Price is one of the most challenging things when you get into the luxury price point, because in the absence of solid comps, it can become really, where the heck? Okay, hold on. Sorry, Catherine.
That's okay.
It can become really challenging, but both to accurately price it and convince the seller that this is the price or the price range. And so that becomes really, okay, now I'm going to share it. Is it sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me, is it sharing the full screen?
It is.
Okay, perfect. You guys, this is like so many things between Zoom and Facebook and screen sharing. It's like, for us older ladies, it's a lot of different things to pull together. Real fast recap, we did, I think, 2 or even 3 weeks on creating 5-star experiences with your buyers and sellers and fellow agents. For those of you in RevShare or attracted to agent attraction, also creating 5-star experiences for your fellow agents can lead to potential agent attraction opportunities. So it's another reason to remind yourself to do a really great job with the agents that are on the other side, whether it's just a showing or an actual transaction. But anyway, I'm going to just run through here. We talked about some of this, and Catherine just talked about this. find out for your particular property that you're working on pricing, what percentage of the market is that? Is that the top 5% of the market? Is it the top 1% of the market? Because you have now really found out who is your most likely buyer pool, and you're able to have that conversation with your seller. Like, we're only going after the top 1% of the market because that's this price point, or 1/2 of 1% of the market. The other very telling thing is how many have expired in that price point in the last year versus how many sold. And in a bread and butter type environment, in this hot market we're in right now, very few, if any, ever expire. They all sell. Well, a lot of times a seller of a luxury property thinks the same thing is going to happen with their property. They're all going to sell. You have a much, much higher chance that a property just doesn't sell if the price is wrong, than for a bread and butter property. And a lot of times when somebody is looking to sell their high priced property, they have plans of where they want to go, or if they want to move, or if they want to buy a second home somewhere else, or they want to invest, whatever, and showing them, hey, 9 out of 10 properties in this price point expire, or 5 out of 10 properties in this price point expire, meaning they left the market unsold. They often don't even understand that that's a possibility. They really don't understand that. So if you can have data, especially in bar charts, to show 3 actives in this price point, 2 pending or under contract in this price point, 2 new, and 9 expired in the last 6 months, that's when you can you never want to tell them your opinion. You want to show them the data and help explain what the data means, so they never take their frustration with the data and put it on you. You're just the messenger, you're the guide about the data. And also showing them the average days on market, because a lot of times they're hearing national news, they're hearing local news, the real estate market's on fire, blah, 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 and mine's going to sell like that, and mine's so special. And they think, oh, I'm going to list it and it's going to sell in a week, or it's going to sell the first day, or it's going to sell in a month. And you say, hey, I just want you to know the average days on market, even in today's hot market, for a property in this price point is 180 days. That's not uncommon. I just sold one I had for over a year in this hot market. Oh, you're muted, I think.
Me?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, so one thing really to add to this point is that when you do this, when you do all your marketing, by the way, you can go to Zillow and you can see how many people have seen the property, how many people have saved it. And again, because we're with EXP, we have so many amazing tools through KV Core to show how many people have clicked on it. And you think, okay, whatever. This is incredibly important, because then you can go to your seller and say, there are 2 reasons why a house does not sell: marketing and price. I can show you that my marketing is phenomenal. Here are all the people who've seen it. Here have they saved it. We've had these amount of showings. However, there's only one reason why this house is not selling. It's price. Now it's your turn. Now, I've done my part. Now it's up to you.
And I think that's super, super, super important, Catherine, to tell them that at the listing appointment.
I do too. Yeah.
And then at least twice a month, coming back around to that. They are always going to think it's the marketing. And that means that is you. So if they get a lower price than they were hoping for, they're going to blame you and not want to take the offer. If you need to do a reduction, they're going to say, no, you're not doing a great job marketing. If you need an extension, they're going to say no. So you've got to, at least twice a month, if not more often, have the conversation. Price, marketing, these go hand in hand. And show them the marketing that you're doing. A lot of times the marketing we do in the higher points is not even to get the house sold. It's to make the seller feel like everything is being done to get the house sold, at least from me. Because getting the right exposure, getting it out there, that's probably more than 50% of it in the luxury price, but another 25 to 50% of why you're doing that is to make sure that the seller knows that you're doing everything possible, and you're showing them the results. Like Catherine said, you're showing them the views, you're giving them updates on any showings that you've had and the feedback from the agents. If you're doing any print, the only reason I ever do print marketing is it makes the sellers happy.
Yes.
Listen.
I just
16 years.
I want to add one more thing to what you said, Janie, about consistently touching base with the seller. By the way, instead of twice a month, I would be doing this at least once a week with the seller, reviewing your marketing and how many people have viewed, and then also their price. Because by the way, if you're not, trust me, they're talking to everybody.
They're talking to
About
everybody.
everybody, other agents, their neighbors, everybody's an expert when
Yeah.
someone's house becomes on the market.
Yeah.
So you need to give them that confidence that when they hear from their neighbor or a friend who's an agent that says, well, maybe they're just not doing marketing because the house across the street from you sold for $3 million in 1 week. You need to show them what the difference in that is, constantly show them what you're doing and how many views you're getting and how their property is front and center to any potential buyer. And what I always say is, I'm not looking to find every buyer out there. I'm trying to find the buyer.
One buyer.
One buyer.
It only takes one.
Yeah.
And the other thing I tell them in the front end, and then I tell them every time that we circle back to what's going on. This is probably across the board. If you're not getting any calls, you're doing everything as far as your marketing plan, but you're not getting any calls, you're probably 15 to 20% high, if not more. If you're getting calls, but you're not getting actual showings, you're probably 10 to 15% high. If you're getting showings, but you're not getting offers, and in my market, a property that's priced right will probably go under contract in 10 to 12 showings. If you are in this long enough, you can keep that data, because people will listen to data more than they'll listen to their agent. So I have all this conversation up front, and I say the average we find is when we've had 10 to 12 showings, if it's priced right, we'll get an offer. That means sometimes after 1 or 2, sometimes after 15 or 16. But if we're 20, 30 showings in, and that happens at the higher price point, and we're not getting offers, we're at least 10% high. And then if we're getting offers, but you're not loving them, we might be 5% high. And I tell all this, again, before we ever list the house or after the listing is signed, so that they have that data. They don't think I'm making that data up once we're not getting showings. I tell them before, and then I circle back. Remember, we said if we were doing all this and getting the online views like Catherine was talking about, but we're not getting any showings, we need to do a price improvement. It's also important to use language that is less upsetting to them. So I call it a price improvement. Everybody likes to improve, not a price reduction, not lower the price improvement. So telling them that, and then relating that, and then also in that time, like Catherine was saying, tell them what else has come on the market, what else has gone under contract, because the market's not static. So if they were the hot shizzle at a certain price 3 weeks ago, but now a brand new one came on the market for $100,000 less, you need to be telling them that. Or if one that they were bashing, which they like to bash the competition, if they were bashing the competition, but it went under contract, they need to know that. Or if one left the market unsold, expired, they need to know that. So giving them that feedback is super, super important. I use Top Producer for this. Top Producer lets you do an amazing, amazing, amazing seller update. And what I would do with Top Producer, and what I do is once a week, or I do every 2 weeks, Catherine does weekly, give them a little email of this is what we've done this week and this is the results this week. But then once a month, I do the Mac Daddy big with graphs and charts Top Producer seller report. It's a PDF. It's very powerful, and it lets them see. And a lot of times if you do this, what Catherine and I are talking about, of setting the right expectation and keeping them evolved all along the way, they're the ones who are going to come around. Do you think it's time for a price adjustment? Yes, we do. Because like Catherine's saying, price is the great equalizer. If you're right by the train tracks or a loud highway, yes, or a bridge or an airport, or you've got some wonky layout that can't be changed, or you've got, I don't know, all these things, price is the great equalizer. So you might be fine on a dollars per square foot or a strict CMA thing, but price equalizes as long as you're doing all the marketing. There are agents who do crap marketing and then it's not price, it's marketing. I just took the listing that I talked to you guys about last weekend, where I said the seller did not list with me because she went with somebody for a lower commission, and then called me 2 months later and said, this isn't moving and it's the price, it's not luxury, it's about $450. It's a property that should have sold in less than a month. The guy had done cell phone photos, didn't tell her anything to do so. We upped the commission. We had her stage it. We had her paint some things. It's being staged tomorrow. We're going right back on at the same commission. It was marketing in that job. It was properly preparing the home for the market and then marketing it. And I'm sure we'll get it sold quite quickly because it's amazing. But that person, that person had done a terrible job. But we're not talking about that person. We're talking about you guys, and you're going to do an awesome job marketing. So it will become the price. And back to seller incubation, the hardest part of luxury real estate is not necessarily getting it, not marketing it. It's keeping the seller on your side during the course of the listing.
Yes.
I know you want to say something as you look.
No, this is like the most important thing ever. And I know a lot of us base things on fear because it feels gross, like to go and say, you need to lower your price or whatever. It's not fun. But having that conversation, they will respect you 100 times more, literally 100 times more than if you didn't have it. And there are people who I've spoken to, big $10 million houses and higher, where they said, my agent never talked to me about this being overpriced.
No, all the time. Actually, when I was the executive vice president of Sotheby's and I was not selling, there was a 4-year period between my sales career that I didn't sell because I managed, at that time it was 400 agents. Now it's like probably 2,000 agents, but my whole job was basically the fire person for issues between agents, issues with clients. And we had a lady come in. We asked her to come in. She actually brought her attorney with her. And it was a listing that one of our agents had that was about to expire. And he said the whole time it was overpriced and she wasn't wanting to reduce it and she wasn't wanting to extend. And we sat at the table in this fancy conference room. And I said, and she literally had tears in her eyes. And I said, why are you blaming him, the agent? I said, he's done all this marketing and he told you it needed to have a price improvement. And she's like, but he took the listing in the first place. And if he took the listing in the first place at that price, that means the price was possible. So the minute he took that listing, he didn't have the conversation in the front end to say, like I said, it's okay sometimes to take a listing, a high price listing, especially in today's market, because we don't always know what the market will bear, but we have to have the conversation. I don't set the market, you don't set the market, the buyer sets the market, and we are together going to expose the listing to the highest level possible to get the highest the market will bear. Because like Catherine's saying, a lot of agents, they will take a listing at any price, any commission, whatever, and then they don't do anything. They don't update the seller. And the seller needs to know that information. And like Catherine's saying, we're not here to make friends. We are trusted professionals to help them get to their next chapter. Just like a doctor doesn't not tell you you have cancer because he doesn't want you to be upset, or your attorney doesn't tell you something you need to know to protect yourself. We are trusted professionals. They are hiring us to get the job done. We're paid very well to get the job done. And sometimes that means telling them what they don't want to hear, but what they need to hear. And there's ways to do it in nice ways. And that's why we're saying, if you prep them from the beginning with the right expectations and the right context for price and marketing and views and shares, that will help pave the way when you do need to negotiate a lower price offer than they wanted, or a price reduction or an extension.
And what happened in that case? Did the agent have a backup to show what they had recommended as a price? Because you have to have that.
She finally came around and extended, but she was not going to. That was the whole point of the meeting, was she was not going to extend with him, and they were friends. And she 100% blamed him for taking the listing at that price rather than being honest with her when the listing started.
So that's why it's so important to do your CMA, present the CMA, have them sign the CMA, because that shows that this was the price you recommended. Now, if it
Yes.
comes out at a higher price, you can go back and say, but look at this. I presented this price to you,
Right.
but then you wanted more. And it just makes everything so much nicer. People don't really want to hate you. They don't really want controversy. They
Yeah.
really would like to have a good, seamless transaction. So if you could show them that, I think it makes a big difference as well.
Yeah, and like I said, you can always test the market, especially in this crazy market right now. I've been surprised at some prices that buyers are offered. But you also have to be ready to adjust price, and this is a conversation to have with the sellers. We have to be ready to adjust and it depends on your market. In my market, because higher priced properties are relatively rare, we might need to test the market for a month or two before we know that it's really not achievable. In other markets, you might only need to test for a week or two before you know it's not achievable. But you need to have their understanding of that in the front end. We're going to test the market. We're going to see what the highest the market will bear. But we need to be ready to adjust. The other thing is, we need to work every offer that comes in, regardless of how low it is. Because
Great advice. Such great advice.
sellers so often get upset, they get insulted, whatever, and they refuse to counter. We work, and again, tell them before you ever get the listing live, we're going to work every offer that comes in the door regardless. You just never know who will throw a crazy number, and just for whatever, they're ingrained to do it, culturally they do it, whatever, and then they come back around, whether in the initial negotiation, or I just sold one last month we closed. It's one that I had for over a year. Well, it's the same buyer that had made an offer 6 months ago. We kind of did negotiate it, but we didn't, we actually had it under contract, and then, but anyway, he came back around. So you just never know. So don't let their emotions take them away and refuse to counter, or counter by coming down $1,000 or whatever silly stuff they want to do. Say, no, we're going to work every offer. And you have to have the conversation with the buyer's agent on the other side too. Like, hey, that wasn't very well received, but I'm going to try to work with you, and just try to work every deal until it's dead, because you will be amazed how many times they can be revived.
And one more thing along with that, don't fall in love with your listings too much, where you're not being objective. Because sometimes you just love it so much, and you love your clients so much that you want, oh, no, that's a terrible offer. No, it's not up to you. It's not your house. Do not fall in love with it. This is a project. You're selling it. Your job is a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. You're not really a part of it.
Right. Other than your,
Yeah. I mean, you're part of it, but you're not. It's not your house.
yeah. We're already at the half hour, so I think we'll continue this conversation on price next week, because this is a really, I believe, one of the most important discussions to have. But if you have any comments or questions about these things, please let us know. We're here to help you out. I love taking on the challenge of challenging clients, negotiations. It's fun for me. So if you're ever stuck, and I know Catherine enjoys it as well, if you're ever stuck and just want a little help or insight or something, and do remember, sometimes you're not going to get every listing. Sometimes you're not going to get it, and it's a blessing, because the expectations of the sellers, or they're jerks, or sometimes we're not going to get all of them. That's just how it is. But the higher you go in price, you don't need to get every one of them either. Just keep going. Don't let it get to you. I have one right now. I'm waiting to hear if I'm going to get or not. I am by far the most qualified person by the statistics for the specific one, but I wasn't willing to go as high as they wanted to hear in price, and I wasn't willing to go as low as they wanted in commission. As nice of the person as the seller is, there's a very good chance I won't get it. And I'm kind of bummed, because I like the seller, but it is what it is. and they might come back around to me in 6 months if it doesn't sell anyway. So just go in. It's just like agent attraction. You're not going to get them all. That's okay. Just
You might get them later.
Yep, you'll get them later. So,
Really
yeah.
quickly, if anybody has any questions, this would be a good time to type it in the chat and we can just quickly go with that if you have anything. But if not, just know all the presentations are available in Game Changers. And if you missed something for the last couple of weeks, go back and take a look. We've had some really amazing thoughts on luxury real estate. Not that we're patting ourselves on the back. They have been good. People have said. So,
you find them by going into the media section of Game Changers and then going to the videos and then just moving back until you see me or Catherine in the videos. And that's how you'll find them. I would start at the very bottom and work your way forward. And we'll probably start the whole 12-week sequence again soon because this is a 12-week sequence. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Don't forget other Game Changers training coming up, lots of stuff going on, and yay.
Yay.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Janie. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, the